Welcome into the On3 studios here in Nashville, Tennessee. It is Thursday morning and another seismic shift took place yesterday. You guys know the news. Jim Harbaugh has officially left Michigan for the NFL. He's been tied to jobs in the past, but yesterday the LA Chargers made it official, plucking Harbaugh out of Ann Arbor less than a month after he won a national championship. So big news. We're going to talk about how it plays into recruiting today on the show. We'll see, but it could actually help. Not that recruiting has been bad for Michigan, but the way Harbaugh has kind of flirted with the NFL the past few years, he would never publicly commit to staying at Michigan long-term. I think all that kind of prevented the Wolverines not from recruiting well. They still recruited well, but you know what I mean. Gaining traction with some of the best prospects in the country. Here, let's take a look. Michigan's last 5 recruiting classes. Look at this, 16th, 18th, 9th, 14th, 10th. One class inside the top 10 in 5 years, no top 5s in the last 5 years for Michigan. So we understand why. College recruiting, it's crazy right now. It's not for the faint of heart. Maybe Jim Harbaugh just wasn't into NIL and everything that it's become, but I'll tell you what. Whoever succeeds Jim Harbaugh at Michigan is going to need to be dialed into recruiting. And right now, all signs point to Sharon Moore replacing Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. Just rumors so far. No announcement has been made yet. At least by the time we're taping the show, there's no announcement. But it seems like Sharon Moore very well could be the pick for Michigan. And I think it's good. Maybe on 2 recruiting fronts, right? The high school level and the transfer portal. Sharon Moore, he's a little bit younger. He's an assistant. He's used to being out on the road, a lot of face-to-face relationships that he still has. And I also think it'll prevent a good chunk of this roster at Michigan from hitting the portal. He seems like the guy that the players are rallying around when it comes to being the next head coach. And if Michigan wants to make yet another run at a national championship next year, they're going to need to retain a majority of that roster. Anyway, you guys, let me know what you think. Is this a big blow for Michigan recruiting, or is Sharon Moore the easy answer to keep things rolling? Let me know. Comment section below. What do you guys think? I want to know. I'm going to get Michigan Wolverine insider Zach Libby on a video later today, talk more all about this. Keep an eye out for that. All right, there's also some more big news yesterday. Alabama head coach Kalen DeBoer landed his first 5-star recruit yesterday. Kinda. It was Ryan Williams, the 5-star wide receiver from Saraland, Alabama. Remember, he decommitted. He was kind of the first casualty of the Nick Saban retirement news. Well, then Williams went on to schedule 4 official visits. Texas A&M, Texas, Alabama, Auburn. He made the Texas A&M visit 2 weeks ago, canceled earlier this week. Jerry Hamilton broke the news that he was canceling his Texas official visit. Then on Wednesday evening, last night, Williams ended it all, recommitting to the Crimson Tide. Major addition on and off the field for DeBoer. On the field, right? The Tide get a dynamic pass catcher with elite speed. Off the field, they stopped the bleeding. For days, it was about who was leaving the program, who was decommitting, who was transferring. Now, we're talking about who is joining the program. It was a statement for Kalen DeBoer. Looked like Hugh Freeze, one of the main in-state rivals, was going to maybe capitalize on this coaching change and swipe Ryan Williams away from Alabama. Maybe it was Steve Sarkisian getting that late official visit. But no, all that has been shut down. Not on DeBoer's watch. I talked with Tim Watts of Bama Online about the importance of this commitment for the Tide. Roll the clip.
It's huge for Alabama because this gives them street cred. A lot of the questions are, can Kalen DeBoer recruit the South? Well, he just got the number 1 player on the board in the South committed, top 3 or 4 in the nation, depending on the ranking overall, and debatably the number 1 player in the state. So that's a pretty big get when you look at it. And again, it gives them street cred. And with Nick Saban, that guy was Byron Scott, BJ Scott back in the day in 2008. And Ryan could have that same effect for Alabama.
So what do you guys think? Is this the start of Alabama's run under Kalen DeBoer? Remember, when Nick Saban arrived in Tuscaloosa, he brought in Julio Jones. Could this be a similar situation with DeBoer and Ryan Williams? I know Alabama fans are hoping so, but if you guys want to check out, I do have the full video with Tim Watts going behind the scenes of Ryan Williams' commitment. It is up on our channel now, posted that last night. But as far as Alabama recruiting goes, there's probably not much more Alabama can do in the 2024 cycle, but I do think that this will be the spark that gets Bama going for the 2025 cycle. Just finally getting some excitement into the program. It was much needed. So today we got a big show. We're going to get into it. But first, I got to talk about one more development that I thought needed to be hashed out on the show. Last week, remember, I had Ohio State insider Matt Parker from Letterman Row on, and we were talking about the addition of quarterback Julian Sayin, the transfer. I asked them, though, do you think Julian Sayin should be counted as a 2024 class signee, or should he be considered a transfer? You know, Julian Sayin signed with Alabama. He enrolled. Technically, he's a transfer. I mean, he was there for bowl practice. He put on the uniform, but then he transferred. And this is something that we're going to continue to see, I think, in this industry. I don't think these short-term signees are going anywhere. So here's a few of the notable ones from this cycle. Julian Sayin, like we said, went from Bama to Ohio State. Jameer Grimsley, the number 157 prospect overall, Bama to Florida. DeAndre Robinson, he asked out of his letter of intent with Texas because the defensive line coach left. He's at Florida now. So those are some notable ones. And with unlimited transfers, and I think recruits, we're going to see more of this, right? I'm not going to say we're going to see a ton more of this, but I think it's something that On3 had to address, and we've made a decision as a company. Should we handle recruits that do this? Should they be part of the high school class rankings, or should they be part of the transfer portal rankings? Here's what we decided. Short-term signees will no longer factor into the On3 industry team recruiting rankings for the team that initially signed with, but rather the new program. STS, that'll be the designation. Recruits that sign early in December, enroll, and then enter the transfer portal prior to the traditional February National Signing Day. So what it means is the rankings will be reflected this cycle in 2024, and it'll roll out sometime between now and February 7th. So within the next 2 weeks, we're going to have a designation for prospects like a Julian Sayin, STS, recruits that sign early in December, enroll, and then enter the transfer portal prior to that traditional February National Signing Day. What do you guys think? I think personally this is the way we should handle it, but I understand there's lots of ways, so let me know, what do you guys think about this new designation? All right, like I said, big show today. I'm excited to get into it. We're going to head to Georgia, talk about the Dogs' recent decommitment, and if Kirby can get that one back. We'll also hit on Miami recruiting. There's a big battle 7-on-7 taking place in Miami this weekend. Some of the best prospects in America are going to be there, and you better believe the Canes are going to capitalize. A whole bunch of 5 stars on campus. I talk with the Zuby Charles of Cane Sport about who could be on commit watch this weekend. All right, big show. Let's get to it. Is Georgia going to be able to reel back in an elite DB that recently decommitted? I got Jake Rowe in this video, and we're going to talk about that and Terry Bussey, official visit this weekend to Athens. Also, David Sanders, 5-star, number 1 offensive tackle in America. He's taking visits, but is Georgia in it, and can they get him on campus soon? We're going to talk about it. UGA fans, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. A lot of offseason to go. We love talking about the Dogs, so do me a favor, hit subscribe for me, please. All right. Let's bring on Jake Rowe from Dogs HQ. And Jake, I'm talking about DB Tay Harris. He decommitted from UGA about 3 to 4 days ago, top 250 recruit. He'd been committed since June 19. And then a day or two later, after he decommits, Kirby goes to see him on the helicopter. So is this a big sign that Georgia is not giving up on Tay Harris despite the decommit?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know in the long run, right, whether or not he's going to be super high on Georgia's board. But I think when you bring in 2 new defensive back coaches, the kid himself has to kind of do some reevaluating. Like, yeah, you have to kind of – this is not what it used to be in terms of the calendar is so much more condensed with these June official visits and things like that I think Tay Harris had to kind of figure out, all right, listen, I need to open this thing up, maybe get some more people involved. Kirby going to see him quickly, I think says that Georgia's definitely not going to give up on him. But I also think it might speak to the whole idea that, listen, we got an in-state kid here. We need to make a final decision on whether or not we're really going to push going forward. And I still think Georgia, if it pushes going forward, is going to have a really good chance to land him. It's just a matter of, kind of where things fall. And listen, we've seen this in the past with Georgia guys. Warren Brinson was one, a Savannah native that Georgia got to commit twice. And, we've seen it happen with guys. So, Georgia's not out of it. Hasn't given up on Tay Harris, but we'll see. Kind of, I guess, this week by week, month by month, how Georgia's defensive back board or stacks up now that Dante Williams and Travaris Robinson are putting it together.
All right, let's move on to the big official visit that's going to take place this weekend. Five-star athlete Terry Bussey, who's been committed to Texas A&M for some time now, he's going to take a late official visit to Athens. So, first of all, UGA did a big in-home visit on Monday. What coaches were in on that one? How did it go? And what are you hearing?
I heard it went well. Glenn Schumann was there, defensive coordinator, linebackers coach, and then both defensive backs coaches, Williams and Robinson, who have a relationship with Bussey. I think Williams is the guy that really gives Georgia a puncher's chance here. Dante Williams has a really strong relationship with Bussey. But the way I look at this is like most of these don't turn out, right? Most of these do, no fruit from the vine on the vast majority of these. But Georgia fans have a very recent example to point to, maybe a little different, but ultimately like when Michael Ooney, out of Copros Cove, Texas, visited Georgia, coming into that visit, everybody's like, hey, listen, man, it's Michigan or it's Alabama. I mean, Georgia did not really seem to be much of a factor. He comes on campus. They fall in love with it. The staff does a really good job recruiting him. I think he left campus having told Georgia he was coming. Mm-hmm. So I think that's something that you have to consider here. Georgia, very attractive place, very good official visit experience, very good recruiters. And I think you give them a weekend in Athens to kind of see how it shakes out. And I'm interested to see if they can make some noise with it, because he is a guy that, to me, can do multiple things for you in the secondary, and it really does seem like he's open to kind of getting this thing figured. It doesn't seem like you need one team really has a stranglehold on this thing, and that's kind of rare in this day and age for somebody not to really have a hold of a recruitment this late in the game.
But didn't Georgia kind of get a boost with the addition of T-Rob there in the secondary as a coach, because he had a relationship with Terry Bussey at Alabama, so this isn't as much of a cold call kind of as you're making it seem.
Well, yeah, no, I don't think it's a cold call at all. I just, Josh, how many times do we see it now where a guy visits 6, 7, 8 times before you get him, right? I mean, it's usually more than just one official. It's an official and a few unofficials, and Georgia's going to have to kind of lean. I'm not saying he's never been to campus. I don't even know the answer to that question, but I don't think that relationship with the overall staff at Georgia, it's just not what it has been in the past. Like it is in these recruitments normally. So you're right. It's definitely not a cold call. I mean, Dante Williams and Travaris Robinson put Georgia in the thick of this thing enough to get a late official visit. I just think that it's a little bit of a long shot when you start considering the fact that he spent a lot of his time during the season and in the summer other places and not at Georgia. And Georgia is kind of a latecomer in that regard.
Yeah. No, you're right. There is usually a formula to this. You see a certain number of visits, generally speaking, when somebody is going to flip or somebody's going to commit. So we'll see how that plays out, though. But a big opportunity this weekend for Georgia to flip another 5-star, possibly right at the end of the 2024 cycle. So we'll keep an eye on that. All right, I want to move back to the 2025 class. The number 2 overall prospect in the country, number 1 offensive tackle, David Sanders. He's been planning visits, and he told our Chad Simmons that he wants to find some top schools by February. So my question to you is, he's taking these visits. Is UGA in it, and can they get him on campus soon?
I think Georgia's is in as good a shape as anybody right now. I'm not saying they're a leader or they're in better shape than anybody. I just think Georgia is. I feel like if you were to get the Sanders family to sit down and really lay out their leaders, I think Georgia's going to be amongst them. Now we'll see as time goes on whether or not Georgia can stay there. They recruited a big offensive line class in this past class. But I do know that they think extremely highly of David Sanders. From what I understand, talking with sources around Georgia, I expect a couple of more visits to Athens will happen in the near future. I think he'll probably be in town at some point before spring practice, and I think he's going to be in town at some point during spring practice. And Georgia's built a really strong relationship there. Kirby Smart, Stacey Searles, Mike Bobo. I mean, you go down the list. I mean, they have been recruiting this kid very hard for a very long time. Remember talking to him last year, almost a full year ago at Under Armour, and he gave me a long list of coaches he communicates with at Georgia. So I don't think that slowed down any, because this cat is he's good. He's one of those rare. He's going to be as good as he wants to be. I don't even know if he's learned how to play football yet, and he's still amazing.
Yeah, and a lot of recruitment to go. He's going to drop a top 8 to 10. That's kind of the range he wants to do. That's what he told Chad Simmons in February. Then a final decision will come in either August or early September. So still a lot of recruiting to go for David Sanders, but we do know he will be dropping a top list here soon. Jake Rowe from Dogs HQ, appreciate your time. Thanks for coming by the Inside Scoop, talking some Georgia recruiting.
You got it, Josh.
Miami recruiting got that spark with the addition of Cam Ward this offseason. You can feel it. We're going to talk Miami recruiting in this video. The momentum is there, in this weekend, so will be the top recruits in the country. Miami will be the center of the recruiting world this weekend. We're going to talk about all the 5 stars that are on campus with Azubi Charles of CaneSport. But first, Miami fans, it's a big visit weekend, and we got you covered all offseason. So do me a favor right now, hit subscribe for me, please. All right, let's bring on Azubi Charles from CaneSport. Azubi, as I said at the top, Cam Ward, that was the addition of the offseason for the Canes. But besides Cam Ward, who's been your favorite transfer portal addition?
So I'm going to head to the opposite side of the ball and go with another guy that's leaving the Evergreen State to head to South Florida, in Washington Huskies safety Michelle Powell. With Miami losing both Cam Kitchens and James Williams to the NFL draft, that safety spot was another position of need that Miami needed to fill, and they did just that with a proven winner, a proven guy with championship, material behind him. Last year, finished with 38 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, and 3 interceptions, and played all over that secondary, nickel, safety, cornerback, and some other positions as well. So a versatile guy they're bringing in to fill a big position of need. So Michelle Paul's the guy I'm going with coming out of Washington as well.
All right. Yeah, big moves on both sides of the ball for the Miami Hurricanes in the transfer portal. But right now, we're talking 2025 recruiting and look at who Miami has on campus this weekend. Let's start with safety DJ Pickett from Zephyr Hills, Florida, the number 7 overall prospect. Now, DJ just named a top 5 recently that includes Alabama, Georgia, Miami, Michigan, and Oregon. And this is not his first visit to Miami, Azubi. So where do you think DJ Pickett stands amongst that top 5? Inside Scoop fans, college football season is wrapping up, and it also means that the NFL is winding down as well. But there's still some great games left in the season. And you know what's not great, though? Finding last-minute tickets. Finding last-minute tickets, it can be a nightmare. Do not let this be the way your 2024 goes. That's why I'm here to tell you about Game Time. It is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the big-time matchups. The Game Time app is great. It's easy to use, and it works in any city, any team. And you get the best price guarantee. Do not stress over getting into your team's favorite games anymore. There's only so many big games, and you need to get these tickets at the best prices. Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Game Time is obsessed with finding ways to help you save money. Zone deals, all right? This is where you pick a section, and Game Time picks the seats for big savings. So here's what we're going to do. Snag the tickets without stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code INSIDESCOOP for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code INSIDESCOOP for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
I think this is really, really big for Miami, getting one of the most coveted defenders in that 2025 class back to Coral Gables this weekend, a guy that has some ties with Miami with his cousin being Booker Pickett, a 2024 signee. Mm-hmm. So I feel like Miami's standing in a pretty good place right now with DJ Pickett obviously making his return back to, South Florida, a place that he's very familiar with. So a big weekend can do a lot of things for Miami, having him back on campus, having him around his cousin, having him around people he's very familiar with. So could be a really, really big weekend for the Canes.
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys are going to talk to him afterward. Find out when he's ready to decide, because if he's already narrowed his list down to 5, like, who knows? Maybe we're not too far off from a DJ Pickett announcement, but we'll wait and see what CaneSport has to say after the visit takes place. Now, let's move down the list. Jamie French, fresh off that Bama decommitment. Now, he was in Tallahassee last weekend. That was an important visit. And this weekend, he's in Coral Gables, the number 14 overall prospect. Jamie French out of Jacksonville, Azubi. Where do you think the Canes stand coming off this decommitment from Alabama?
Yeah, since that kind of Alabama fire sale started with the departure of Nick Saban, Miami's been all over Jamie French. The day after he decommitted, Hurricanes wide receiver coach Kevin Beard spent about 2 hours on the phone with him, talking life, football, and everything in between, which really, really stood out to him and kind of made him want to visit Miami even more. So right now, he kind of told me that, hey, I'm not really, in a rush for anything. I just decommitted from this long time commitment. I'm really just looking to see how things play out. And I feel like Miami's trying to really establish themselves as a team to watch early on. And I think they're doing so with building that strong relationship and getting him on campus this weekend as well.
Yeah, I feel like it's an important time in his recruitment. All the top teams trying to shuffle in for those visits. Like I said, FSU last weekend, Miami this weekend. He's going to have a full tour of visits all spring, so we'll keep an eye on that one. Now, I want to talk about wide receiver Dallas Wilson. Interesting prospect, 6'3", 180, but he's committed to Oregon. He goes to Tampa Bay Tech right there in Florida. So Miami trying to flip him, keep him from going 3,000 miles away to play football, keep him in state, top 50 overall prospect. What are you hearing heading into this one with Miami's chances?
Yeah, so the first time I ever spoke to Wilson about Miami was actually in the summer at the Under Armour Future 50. And he was kind of just telling me, hey, the Hurricanes are on my radar. I'm committed to Oregon, but, you never can overlook the hometown teams and, the Florida team. So that's why Miami's kind of wiggled their way in, has kept, their name alive with, Wilson. And that kind of led to his upcoming visit to Miami. Kevin Beard, another guy that he has his hands all over. And Miami's really making a push to keep one of the top Florida kids in state with Dallas Wilson. So another big-time receiver headed down to South Florida.
All right, last prospect I want to talk to you about is Jaden Perlow. Now, he's committed to Georgia from Buford, Georgia, but there's some rumors he's been looking around, and he has taken a couple visits. So what are you hearing going into this one?
Yeah, another top Canes target committed elsewhere. I talked to Jaden last week, and he's really, really excited to get on campus, despite that long time commitment to the Dogs. Like you said, he said he'll be taking visits throughout the recruitment process, and even told me he's going to likely take an official visit to Miami sometime this summer. So I think Miami's making a really strong push right now with Derek Nicholson leading the way with Jaden. So another guy that, the big weekend could do wonders for Miami. So looking forward to speaking with Jaden after this weekend. It's kind of seeing where his head's at with everything.
Yeah, see if Miami can kind of loosen up that commitment to Georgia. We'll see. Now, I know it's early, and I know this is the first visit weekend of many, many, many throughout the offseason, but is there anyone that Canes fans need to put on commit watch this weekend?
So that's a really tough question because, like you mentioned, it's really early in the cycle. But I do think this weekend can move the needle with a lot of guys, and that's not an understatement. Some of the guys that we just mentioned, and the other 30 to 40 to 50 big time prospects on campus this weekend. It may only be January, but I feel like this weekend is shaping out to be one of the biggest in the recruiting cycle for the Canes and could have very positive impacts on the rest of the 2025 cycle as well. So going to have our eyes all over this weekend with all these top guys coming in. So we'll have plenty of stuff, on our site later this weekend as well.
Yeah, be sure to go to CaneSport, check it out. Miami fans, let me know. Comment section below. Who do you have on commit watch? It might not be one of the 4 guys we highlighted, but like Azubi said, there's 30 prospects going to be on campus. Could be somebody pulling the trigger. Let me know. Comment section below. All right, Azubi Charles, thanks for talking a little Miami recruiting today on the Inside Scoop.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that content, be sure to subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We have a new page dedicated only to recruiting. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now.